75% threshold. Sorry, Trevor.
I call the Honourable Minister, John Banks.
Thank you, sir. There's one thing that needs to be put on the public record today, and that is the people of Waimakariri are great judges of character. And the ultimate test was election day last year, when they transferred the mantle of authority from that Labor member to the member we've got now for Waimakariri, Kate Wilkinson, and that proves that the people of Waimak are great judges of character. They wouldn't have...
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Member Tim Horan. I'm sorry, Brendan. My apologies, Brendan.
I noticed that Mr Banks has notes, and I move that we allow him to read from his notes in case he...
No. The member, we sit down. That is not a point of order, and it's up to the Speaker to judge. I call the Honourable John Banks.
The sponsor of this bill is the former member for Waimak, who's been transferred to the Labor Party list, and so he should. And like the sponsor of this bill will be unplugged. Like the sponsor's head, this bill will be unplugged by the National Act Coalition this afternoon in the Parliament.
Order.
And the bill begins with an own goal. The explanatory note tells us that once a state enterprise or entity has been omitted from the Act, a shareholding minister may sell the enterprise or company. Future parliaments would thereby be limited in their ability to reverse such changes. That's what it says in the explanatory note of this silly little bill sponsored by this silly little fellow, formerly the member for Waimak, now transferred rightfully onto the Labor Party list, low on the list at that. We don't hear rational evidence based on policy from the Labor Party like we used to, Mr Speaker. The Labor Party electorate of Waimak used to have a member called Mike Moore. And this front bench list member sponsoring this bill is no Mike Moore. He's no Mike Moore. Mike Moore was a tower of a man, short in height, but tall in stature in this Parliament. And Mini Mike, the sponsor of this bill, is no Mike Moore. But this is what Mike Moore had to say about this bill.
Point of order. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I'm sure you're listening to the member speaking, and you will reprimand him.
Well, this is a very robust debate. There have been a number of interjections, and I guess the member is reacting to them. But I'd ask the member to speak to the bill. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Indicating you weren't listening to what the member said, because if you were, you would have required him to withdraw and apologise.
Well, I was listening, but sorry. Point of order. Speaking to the point of order.
I don't.
The member who initiated this debate used all sorts of expletives about the member down in front. So it is tragic for this member to stand now and claim that the member in front of me should not be using those sorts of words.
Thank you.
It's crazy.
I've heard enough. It's 1-1. Call the Honourable Member John Banks.
Mr Speaker, the World Trade Organisation was ably led by a man that this side of the House promoted to the World Trade Organisation, the former Labor frontbencher Mike Moore. The sponsor of this bill is sure as hell no Mike Moore. More recently, this is what the real Mike Moore wrote, and this is what he would have to say about this bill. What's the common denominator in success and failure? Open economies always do better. Trade and competition drive up results and help to combat corruption, as well as allocate resources more efficiently. Private ownership spreads through society and private ownership works. That's what the former frontbench member of the Labor Party, the Right Honourable Mike Moore, had to say about free trade and private ownership. But the days of Mike Moore towering above this House no longer exist. And what do they have today? They have the former member of the Labor Party representing Waimak as the towering pygmy of the former member, the Mike Moore, who was the World Trade
Righto, I've heard enough. The member will concentrate on the contents of the bill. This is a first reading bill and we want to actually hear the substance of the bill. Honourable John Banks.
The problem with this bill, Mr Speaker, is that it won't work. Because I said in the introductory remarks in this bill, it says here, a shareholding minister may sell a public asset. Well, what's the bill all about? If a shareholding minister may sell a public asset, the enterprise or company, future parliaments would thereby be limited in their ability to reverse such changes. We know that governments are not good owners of public cash-earning assets. We know that the private sector can run public assets better than the public sector. They need this legislation because they can't defend public ownership on evidence, Mr Speaker. These have been studied to death. Public or private ownership of assets studied to death in many, many studies, and the jury is in. Private enterprise runs businesses better than the government can. That is why we don't need this bill, and that is why members on this side of the House in the majority will be voting this bill down. When I look at bills like this today, it's little wonder that the good people of Waimak made a solid decision when they chose Kate Wilkinson, who will be voting against this bill today, who will be voting this bill down today on behalf of the people of Waimak, and we will be voting it down today on behalf of the people of Epsom. The ACT Party opposes this bill for the simple reason that...
Order. The member's time has expired. I call Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr.